All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 2 a.m., but I could not go to sleep without telling you about this film that I think is going to be either very much on the extreme side of hit or the extreme side of miss for you. Now, to be clear, I don't know how I fucking feel about this movie, and that's a good thing because I feel it makes for interesting conversation. There are a lot of things I like about this film, and on equal parts, there are a lot of things I don't like about this film. The movie that I'm talking about today is called Saccharine, and it was on my top five list video, but it was there as a bonus, not within my top five, just a movie horror film that I was curious about watching. And I finally found it. I got to sit down and watch it, and I gave myself a day to figure out like how I'm feeling. And I can tell you, I'm no closer to figuring that part out. So we're going to figure it out together in this video, how I feel. Hopefully by your comments and the interest level on this film, I might be able to reflect on it a little bit more. But the movie Saccharine is directed by Natalie James, who you've actually seen her work before. So I'm assuming boldly, if you've followed as many horror films as you can, I'm sure you've come across a movie called Relic about an old lady dealing with dementia and how her daughter and her have to figure out what exactly is haunting her, and it warps her mind and turns her into someone and something very unrecognizable. And it's a heartfelt horror movie that I highly recommend if you haven't seen it. Obviously films like that aren't new, where they sort of incorporate some kind of commentary on mental health, whether it be dementia or just general mental health with some kind of entity, but this plays it in a very subtle, nuanced way with an ending that I didn't see coming because it was just very heartfelt. And then she also made Apartment 7A, which is a prequel to Rosemary's Baby that I actually very much enjoyed. So she is no stranger to horror films. She's also no stranger to blocking and cinematography and composition of horror films. Like, she just knows how to set up a decent scare. So in that terms, I think like this film is objectively well made. It feels like Substance Light, because in a lot of ways this movie has a through line of health in the narrative. The movie follows a woman who uses pills to lose weight so she can impress an instructor at her gym. But can you guess what is in these pills that she's taking? She's a med student, so she gets to play around with dead bodies all day. Pretty cool. And one day, one of her friends that she hasn't spoken to in a while tells her about a magic pill. And when she tests these pills, she finds out that there is human ash inside of them. So she has the bright idea: hey, I work with dead bodies all fucking day. I can be the supplier and the consumer. What she didn't figure out early on was that the side effects of these pills are fucking next level, which is that depending on who the ashes belong to, that dead person will be haunting you. And it's a crazy fucking story. Like, it's kind of insane. The premise alone intrigued the ever living fuck out of me as someone who is a health buff and someone who fitness is a very important part of my life, and it's been a long standing part of my life. I'm always intrigued when a film like The Substance or this comes along and they play with the concept of body image and fitness, and then turn it into a fucking horror film, because in a lot of ways real life fitness it comes with a lot of dysmorphia and self-analysis and judgment of yourself and comparison. I mean, it's ripe for a horror film take. This definitely takes a huge swing in a lot of ways. This is both a film about commenting not just on women's body, but just in general the fitness industry and what comes with it. We are following a woman, and a lot of the main characters here are female, but I feel like, coming as I've been a trainer before, and I think a lot of the stuff that is in this film can also correlate towards men and just body image in general. So this is kind of a universal movie in a lot of ways, but it is definitely much more female focused, and in that way, you know, and in the way of The Substance, it definitely feels a little bit more emotionally driven. But what's crazy here is how she manages to implement the horror into this, the ghost story. This is one part fitness analogy and analysis, and then another complete ghost horror film. And these things should not, in theory, work together. They have no business working together, but the magic of filmmaking and a really brilliant person is that with the right skills, the right writing, and the right vision, they can make it happen. And I think that 65 to 70% of this movie worked for me. But there is a part of this film where I just wasn't meshing with it. I wasn't meshing with it at all. And I think it is because it's an hour and 53. It's an hour and 53-minute long film. And I think if they shaved 20 minutes off of this, it would become a little bit more focused and a little bit less redundant. We do go through the second act of her just taking the pills and dealing with the her body image as a whole, which is a huge part of the story. And I don't think that's the part that's problematic. It's the parts where we then remember that there's a ghost in the story and we have to implement that into the narrative. And on occasion, it can feel forced. Where I feel like the first act should have just worked as a build up to that. And then when we finally get to the ghost story of the ghost part of this story, I can't say it's a very scary film. I feel like the ghost itself was underutilized, and we do a lot of the basic stuff in terms of there's an imprint on the bed because she's sitting there, she's in the reflection, and I think visually the first time you see it, impressive, it looks awesome, and she knows how to block the scenes and she knows how to like compose a scene. But when you have these prolonged sequences of the haunting, it becomes less interesting, and because it's a very saturated film and very bright colors, it's not scary. I didn't feel unnerved through most of the film. But what I do like is when the film digs into its weirdness. There's a lot of body horror here, and that's where it's really horrific. When she realizes that her pills are making her lose weight, but somehow she's still eating more. And I'm not going to tell you what the correlation is between the ghost and why she's eating more. It's the stuff with the food that really brings in the discomfort, because the food in this film almost works like an entity of evil in itself in order to sort of push the narrative along. Even though she looks thinner, she isn't feeling better, and she is somehow giving in to her desires of overeating more. And I mean, this film touches on eating disorders and dysmorphia and expectations that you have for yourself as someone who wants to be more fit, and how generational issues can cause those things as well if you follow in the footsteps of your parents who also aren't health conscious, and what it means for you as someone who decides to be the first in your family to take health seriously. And there's a lot of things in there that it comments on that I think it does well. It presents those subjects well enough. And I think in that end, it's really intriguing. There's this element of body horror. It's not a gory film, but the way that it treats food as a catalyst for the story is really gross. And that alone was really impressive. The ghost stuff, it really wasn't working with me, but there's a moment in the narrative closer towards the third act, just at the cusp at the end of Act 2, where we start sort of finding the connection between the ghost and what the ghost wants, the ghost's motivations, and the hauntings get a little bit more heightened. And at this point in the movie, the body horror gets fucking turned up to 11 in terms of grossness and where we're pushing her, and it becomes more about her internal battle that the ghost is causing her as opposed to the ghost itself. And then when she tries to figure out how to defeat this entity, it gets even wilder. So I think like the last 30 to 40 minutes of this movie are like a crazy odyssey. Like it's worth watching for that. Some of the visuals are really insane and uncomfortable and gross, and it really digs into this sort of primal nauseating sensation when you're out of control with your own desires and you're letting your body choose for you. It really does a good job pointing out the discomfort that comes with not being okay with your body, and the habits that kind of make you take 2 steps back when you think you're taking 3 forward. And that stuff works. And I think had it been shorter, it would have been a little tighter, and then maybe the horror would have worked better. But then again, the best horror happens in the last 30 to 40 minutes, where the film really picks up and kind of remembers, like, there's a haunting we're dealing with. It wasn't creepy, it just got weird. And when it got weird, like The Substance, I really was like, I wanted more of the weird. Less of the scary, just dig into the weird. Get the real fucking, like, take risks. This movie takes some visual risks that I really appreciated. And I think on that merit alone, it's worth watching out of curiosity. There's a lot of interesting visuals here. There's some good discomfort, and I think it's just a different film. I mean, it's genuinely a different film. I think she has a thing with turning internal battles into manifestations of horror, like she did with Relic, and now this. And I'm even though I didn't really vibe with this movie fully, I'm on board with whatever she does next, because I think she's at the very least an interesting voice in horror. And I love that when you take risks. Horror is the genre you want to do that with, and I think that there's a lot of risks in this film. It's definitely like an at-home watch. You know me, I'll always tell you to go to the movies, but I respect your time, and I know that a lot of you don't want to go to the movie, so I would definitely think that this is like a streaming film. But I think somewhere along the line, it is worth watching, just to comment on, just to watch. I still don't know how I feel about it, and I think even though I explained it to you, I am still more conflicted than I was 12 minutes ago. So, nonetheless, that's my review for tonight. Also, the lead did an incredible job. She was so good. Her arc, how she went from unsure of herself to secure and then completely just losing her mind. She had this very specific arc that was very there. It was very like, you can tell, in certain movies you have to really watch intently to see the arc. The arc is here in her performance. You can see it. So overall, I think she was fantastic. The cast is here. The cast here is awesome. But yeah, that's my review for today. Saccharine. Let me know if you guys end up catching it, if you've already seen it, or if you're curious enough to watch it when it lands on streaming. Like I said, I still think it's worth watching just for its strangeness. And if you liked The Substance, there's a pretty good chance you're going to enjoy this. So anyway, that's it. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for 1,000 subscribers. We're at 1,056. Makes me glow. I appreciate you guys. And I hope you enjoyed my June highest anticipated video that came out yesterday. If you haven't, check that video out. Think you might find some sweet hidden gems that you didn't know were coming out. Yeah, that's it, guys. Talk to y'all later. And as always, I'll see you at the movies.